Welcome back to Tide Pod on the YouTube home of Tide Illustrated. Tony Tsoukalis and myself, Jack Knowlton, joining you from Cleveland. Excuse the hotel room lighting situation, but I'm on hand in Cleveland to watch Alabama in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And the Tide, Tony, there's a term we all like to use this time of year. It's called survive and advance. And that is what Alabama did on Friday. Beat Robert Morris 90-81, a sweated out game. Not probably expected sweated out game, but it was nonetheless. Alabama does win, beats number 15 seed Robert Morris. It does not become a victim of a Cinderella and will advance to the round of 32 to play St. Mary's. We know that now. Just wanted to dive into our takeaways, obviously. And you know what, Tony? I'm an eternal optimist, so I'm going to start with the good here, and we're going to talk about the bad too. Don't worry. But I want to start with the man who came into the game and had to put his hero cape on, digging Alabama out of a proverbial rebounding black hole that it dug itself into, and that is Grant Nelson. That's where we're going to start. Grant Nelson, big storyline of this game. Obviously, coming in, he was injured. Did not play until the final 7 minutes, came in at the 8:47 mark with Alabama down. His career was on the line at that point. He said, Nate Oates, put me in the game. Let me go save this team. And he did in a big way. 5 points, 3 rebounds, had a steal as well in 7 minutes on the floor, finished +5. And Alabama was able to pull away and win this game by 9. Tony, I don't think they do it without Grant Nelson. I was impressed with how he was able to do that coming in the game cold and saved, or I guess at least preserved, his own career for at least another game here. Thoughts on Grant's performance to start here?
Yeah, I mean, like the numbers don't even do it justice. The 5 points, 3 rebounds. I mean, he comes in like 7 seconds, gets a steal. Robert Morris takes the lead. He's the one that is on the other end of the alley-oop to get the dunk to retake the lead for Alabama. He gets a couple of rebounds late. I think he missed a free throw, but I mean, he was great. I mean, he was just he gave Alabama the momentum it needed when it was losing a ton of momentum. I actually never felt worried about Alabama. We were talking about this before the start of the pod. I never felt worried for Alabama, but I certainly felt more reassured when Grant Nelson came in the game. I mean, obviously, Alabama probably didn't want to use him. They probably wanted to rest him as much as they could, especially going up against they knew whoever they were going to face, St. Mary's or Vanderbilt, it's going to be a challenge in the front court. St. Mary's even more so than Vanderbilt, and that's who they're going to get. So they're going to need Grant to be full health. And, he only played, I think, 7 minutes. It actually It felt like he played more than 7 minutes, which I think speaks volumes to like the impact he made. But 5 points, 3 rebounds in 7 minutes. Also, I mean, like you got to feel. I know that Nato's talked about it after the game. He said his daughter kind of felt bad for Robert Morris for their starting lineup, basically having to play the whole game. How discouraging does it have to be for a Robert Morris team where it's basically the front five, the starting five is playing the whole 40 basically. And then you got Grant Nelson coming off the bench. It's like, hey, you've done all this, you've stayed in the game, and then Grant Nelson, comes off the bench.
There was a moment. There was a moment, and shout out Marion Dickerson from Robert Morris. That dude is a stud. Was almost kind of the latest March Madness darling, 25-9. There was a moment where he's at that point played 30 some odd minutes, 27 some odd minutes. And they're standing next to each other on the free throw line. It was right in front of me. And Grant Nelson is just talking smack. And it's unreal that Alabama can unleash that kind of weapon. Like, I bet he was just like, bet I'm the last guy you want to see now with how long you played. And I think the refs had to break up a little thing at one point. So, yeah, I mean, that's the luxury of a deep roster, right? Is you're able to bench him and let him go out there and do his thing. But, he was phenomenal. Yeah, go ahead.
Go. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to add in, I mean, talk to Grant after the game. He said he was feeling pretty good, looked pretty good. I mean, he had the dunk that put him up 10 with 2 minutes left and played some good defense. Obviously, they were much better on that end of the court, I thought, when he was in the game, which wasn't a long time, but it was significant. I just thought he was great. And I'm glad I did get to shout out Dickerson as well, because, I mean, that's why we all love this tournament, right, is the heroes you never know until they get unleashed in March Madness, and credit to him. But yeah, Nelson was huge.
The other big thing I think that, talking about Alabama's depth is Darren Reed, 9 points,
Mm-hmm.
four rebounds in 10 minutes. I mean, he also hit a three. He hit a ridiculous, like, I loved that play. I tweeted about it where LeBaron Philon is in the corner. He's kind of trapped. He bounces the ball off of a Robert Morris player, gets it back, then kind of drives to the lane, dishes out to a wide open Reed who hits a three. It's just, it's kind of a wild little play. Darren Reed had a couple of big plays. He had that one. He had that three that was big. They had some kind of circus shot early on.
I asked him about that after, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was he said the only thing he could remember about it was he just was like, I had to sprint back on defense. But he said, in classic humbleness fashion, he was like, I was supposed to pass it to Aiden Sherrill actually on that play, and Aiden was sitting right next to him. They kind of had a moment there. But yeah, he was
friends too, yeah.
yeah, two, of course, former high school teammates. While we're staying on the good, this is good vibes right now. Front court, you mentioned Reed. I mean, you can't talk about the front court too without, there's a couple guys really, but Mohamed Diabate too, when you're talking about bench guys. I mean, he does it again in a March Madness game. It's ridiculous. When the lights are brightest, he seems to step up. 18 points, 8 for 10 shooting, 10 rebounds, had a block and a steal as well. Hit his 2 3-pointers. That's been a big growth point for him all season. Mo 3. And you know what? Another performance against another scrappy mid-major that ends up lifting Alabama. To me, the Grant Nelson stuff is not possible without the efforts of Mohamed Diabate. Won the blue collar award too for this game, if you can
and
believe.
Played the full 40 because there's a funny picture I think I sent you via text of LeBaron like kind of looking at with his palms up at Diabate, like, why did you foul up 10 with 2 seconds left? But it's not in Mo's DNA to an easy bucket go by. He could have easily let Robert Morris just drive to the lane. Alabama runs out the clock, but he tried to block it and got a foul. But yeah, it's a funny photo somebody captured. I forget who it was, but of Diabate of LeBaron Philon kind of being like, dude, why are you doing this?
Yeah. He doesn't have an off switch. It doesn't matter. Yeah, there was a collective groan in the arena when everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, just let the final buzzer go." We as journalists who have to write Instinct Gamers appreciated the couple of extra minutes. So thank you for that one, Mr. Diabate. And then the other main man in the middle, who stepped up for Alabama, and it was really evident to me in this game that the game plan was feed the ball in the paint. Whatever you're going to say, and we're going to talk about the rebounding. The bad part of the rebounding in a second, but whatever you say about that, offensively, there was a clear plan. They wanted to get the ball in the paint, get it to the bigs, take advantage of a slightly undersized Robert Morris team. And the guy that did that is Clifford Omoruyi. I asked him if he's had as many dunks as he had in this game. He had 17 points. That's a high for him in an Alabama uniform. I thought he was just good offensively. It was a constant outlet. They did that beginning. They love that beginning of the game lob action where they have a guy curl around and just throw it up from the wing to him, and it's a good way to get games started. Tony, I thought he was also, great tonight in terms of giving them a scoring lift and kind of answering the bell when it was clear they wanted to get the ball into him and try and score on this smaller Robert Morris team.
Not to pour cold water on your good vibes, but
all right,
there's something about this Alabama team that, like, why is it that you'll have a player like Amori or Nelson against Kentucky and Auburn? Like, how is it that they have like 15 points in the first half and then just like Robert Morris just shut out Cliff Omoruyi in the second half? I mean, he had 17 points on 8 of 8 shooting, and he was 15 points in the first half. And then, for the game, he only got 2 points in the second half. I mean, like, granted, he was great, and he was the reason why, Alabama didn't shoot well this game from three, or didn't do its normal 3-point shooting. So it did rely on some points down low, and Cliff Omoruyi was great about that. But it is kind of weird how, like, you'll see these players like either him or Grant, and they'll have these, especially with the bigs, you'll have like double-digit points in the first half and then barely any in the second half, or vice versa maybe. But hey, look, take the production where you can get it. I thought Cliff was great, especially coming off of like maybe one of his worst games against Florida. I thought he had a good performance.
Yeah, certainly. You are right about that. I think to an extent, sometimes it can be sort of a second half adjustment, whether it's Alabama or the other team. I mean, to the contrary of Cliff, I mean, none of the guards really got going until Mark did later, and I want to touch on that after the rebounding because we're on the front court right now. So I think part of it can be sometimes Alabama adjusting, and then obviously part of it can be Robert Morris making it a little bit more of a point of emphasis. Just get him out of the paint, whatever you can do, try and funnel the ball outside. Maybe they saw, hey, they're missing shots. Maybe they'll just keep missing shots because, Alabama, not a great, not an elite 3-point shooting team by any means this season. So I think it's kind of an adjustments thing, but you're right. It can sometimes be strange. You want to see those performances kind of sustained for guys like Grant and Cliff. But I thought he was good. I mean, he told us in Nashville that his best basketball was still to be played, and so far he was right. So credit to him. A little bit of a premonition there. All of that said, the other big story of this game, rebounding, awful. It absolutely kept Robert Morris in the game. They out-rebounded Alabama 39-37. They had 16 offensive rebounds in this game. I actually only turned them into 15 second chance points, which feels pretty low considering how many they actually ended up having. Hurts even more when you say the tallest starter for Robert Morris is 6'9". They're woefully undersized, not an exceptional rebounding team. They're not deep. Tony, your thoughts on that? And as you kind of, you segue it to St. Mary's now, this is a Gaels team ranked second in the country in offensive rebound percentage. And Alabama just made Robert Morris look like it's second in offensive rebounding percentage in this first game. I mean, what were you noticing in the game about the rebounding trends? And does it make you worried here as Alabama gets through this game, but now faces a team much more disciplined on the glass than Robert Morris is?
Yeah, it's also, before we get started, it's the St. Mary's team that leads the nation in rebounding margin. I think it's by like 10.7 or something like that. It's over 10 rebounds. So Alabama's definitely got its work cut out for it. Look, I think that, like, yes, is this Robert Morris game alarming? Sure, because I think Alabama should have done a better job with the boards. He also didn't have Grant for most of it. You got to remember, Jaren Stevenson left with a wrist injury, and I know he came back, but that had to
he didn't look the same.
Yeah, it kind of had to contribute, and I think he's fine, but like I do think that it played a part. I think we'll see if he's better or if it affects him against St. Mary's. Obviously, that will that'll be a big thing for Alabama, but. Yeah, I think that influenced it. So you're losing two of your top two guys at the 4 position. I mean, Mo Diabate, he had 10 rebounds, but also I feel like there were times that didn't he pick up his 3rd foul somewhat relatively early, so they have to kind of
yes.
So I mean, look, you're down like at that point, you're really down kind of like 3 bigs, and so you're gonna have it was Aiden Sherrell's first, NCAA tournament. So there's a lot of things going against you right there. There's only so much excuse you can give for Alabama. Like at a certain point, like it is a 15 seed. We got to realize too, like when we're saying all this stuff, a win's a win and advance to survive in advance. And I get that this is a 15 seed and Alabama made it a little bit too uncomfortable for a team that, was playing a 15 seed. They probably should have walked it a little bit more against Robert Morris, but they did have a lot of things going wrong for them. And I do expect a better performance against St. Mary's. I mean, they're going to need it because like the St. Mary's team, they looked bad against Vanderbilt, but it can be a problem for Alabama. They play so weird, so slow, and they're, like we've said, so good at rebounding that especially if Alabama's not shooting, I think it could be a tough game. I expect Alabama to beat St. Mary's, and maybe we'll get to that later, but no, they're going to need a much better performance. I just think they have it in them. I wasn't as concerned about some of the flaws in this game. It's kind of like a lot of it too was, what's that meme of the video game guy and, kind of sits up when things get close,
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it's that Alabama when Alabama needed to wake up, it woke up. And I think they'll be a little bit more focused for St. Mary's.
Well, and I don't mind getting right into that looking at that St. Mary's game, because I think you're right. A win's a win. I mean, Robert Morris is a tournament team. They're good for a reason, but you're right. I think, and the thing I kept going back to, first off, just observing the rebounding against Robert Morris, and how it got that bad. It was a lot of just kind of waiting for the ball to come to them stuff and not going up and grabbing the rebound. A lot of times Robert Morris is able to kind of go over guys and almost around, it doesn't matter if you have the tallest guy on the floor. They were just putting in more effort to get the boards on some of those plays. And so I think I say that because you look back at some of these games Alabama has played, when they do play these teams that have that very distinct rebound first style, the Houstons, the Texas A&Ms, Alabama has done better on the glass in those games, and they won both of those games. I think those are the two examples I look to as the best comparison to St. Mary's. And so to me, what we've seen from this team is when they make it a point of emphasis, when they say we have to get on the glass or we will absolutely lose this game, they say that for every game, but I think the ones they've really meant it, they've actually done pretty well on the glass. And so I say that to provide, I guess, a glimmer of hope or, a projection to St. Mary's. They are definitely going to make it a point of emphasis. And usually the issue then becomes what other area falls off when they overemphasize the rebounding. But to me, that's what, when I look at that St. Mary's matchup, gives me some confidence, is they seem to step up in games against teams that rebound the ball well. This is the number one defensive rebound team in the country. And I think it's obviously largely down to its tempo. They have a lot of possessions. That's another thing with St. Mary's we could talk about. But I actually am confident they will step up on the glass, because I think they know that they have to, rather than kind of just being told that they have to, if that makes sense. But I think it'll be better on the boards. I agree with you. I don't know if you have any additional rebounding thoughts there.
It's going to have to be, but I agree with you. It's good. Yeah. I mean, they're going to have to be. I mean, we've seen this Alabama team play up and down to its competition, and I think that's the case. I think too, St. Mary's is going to be tough, but it is still a 7 seed. Alabama is still a much more talented team than St. Mary's, and so they should win. It's a losable game for sure. And I'm not saying that St. Mary's, but Alabama should be able to hang with St. Mary's. That they're across the board more talented than St. Mary's.
I mean, let's just touch on the Gaels while we're on the subject. And maybe I don't know how much of the Vanderbilt St. Mary's game you were able to watch here today, but they're very distinct. They're 360th in KenPom in adjusted tempo. This will be, and I've talked about it in previous shows when we got the show when after Alabama got the draw. This will be a massive clash of style game. They want to slow you down. They play very composed offense. They actually aren't, it's not that they're not elite at not turning the ball over. So they play slow, but they can still turn it over. But yeah, they're almost dead last in adjusted tempo. 7th in the nation too in defensive efficiency. They do not allow very many offensive rebounds. They defend the 2 really well. They're 12th in the country in that. Alabama, obviously one of the best scoring teams inside. We saw that today. So to me, I hear that. And frankly, Tony, to relate it back to Robert Morris, I think Alabama's guards have to step up a lot more in the scoring department. Props to you. Your Mark Sears stat continues. He got 10 assists, excuse me. Alabama's now 12-0 when he gets at least 7.
11-0.
Sorry, 7-0.
No, 1-1. 11-0. Yeah.
11-0. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Did they move to 11-0 or are they 12-0 after today?
I believe they are 11-0. Let me
11-0 now today. Okay. It's your stats, so I want to make sure I get it right. But
I'm going to double check.
I'll let you double check. But yeah,
I always serenade up with it after everything. I send them something to remind them. So.
It is a good stat. And I thought that was good. And I think that was necessary for Alabama with, Sears dishing and them the emphasis of them getting the ball in the front court was big. And, LeBaron Philon had a goose egg. I still thought he was really effective. 8 assists, no turnovers. I don't think people realize how hard that is. All that to say, going into the second half against St. Mary's, it cannot be a situation where Sears, Youngblood, Aiden Holloway, and LeBaron Philon are all in single figures. I think those guards need to take over in scoring. I do think the 3 is going to have to fall a little bit for Alabama because I think on some possessions against this St. Mary's team, that might be the best look you're going to get. That's kind of my outlook. I'll let you give your thoughts on St. Mary's as well. But I think guard play's got to step up. And of course, the rebounding, being able to establish yourself in transition is going to be huge in a game where whatever team sets the tempo is probably going to win it because they're just so different.
Yeah, I think Chris Youngblood has to step up big. And then, like, I know it's really easy to look at the points and be like, oh, LeBaron Philon had 1 point. The crazy thing about LeBaron Philon, I think he needs some confidence. I think somebody needs to come up and talk to him. There's no reason why he should only take one shot in a game. So he went 0 for 1 from the floor. That's kind of weird. But at least he had 8 assists and no turnovers over 27 minutes. So I didn't really hate LeBaron's game. I just think he needs some confidence. But like Chris Youngblood, going 1 of 6 from 3 when that's like the number one thing you do, I think they're going to need a bigger performance from him. Also, this is LeBaron's first tournament game. Chris Youngblood, I'm pretty sure didn't South Florida make it. He's played in a tournament game before, right? Or am I just blanking? Maybe.
I'd have to fact check, but he I think he has. Yeah, I think he did. I think he's last year there because I think they won the American.
But either way, he's an older guy that just kind of looked out of his element at times, and I think you're going to need to see more from him. Look, I know he's not Latrell Wrightsell, and they kind of need him to be Latrell Wrightsell, but he kind of hasn't been. He's got to be closer though. He can't. You're gonna have to be better than 1 of 6 from 3. He played decent defense, but I think you're gonna need more from him if you're gonna go far in this tournament. So definitely him. And the thing about Mark is I don't think Mark went 1 of 5 from deep. It wasn't a great shooting performance from Mark, but I like the way that he adapted his game. Obviously, you mentioned the 10 assists, but he also just Robert Morris wasn't fouling, and Mark sparked the aggressive kind of push that got Robert Morris in the bonus. That kind of and then once Robert Morris got in the bonus, it kind of like landslided, and Alabama did started to pull away. And Mark was 11 of 13 from the line. Credit to him for on a day that just didn't shoot. He didn't shoot well. Like he was able to get points otherwise. Normally, we're really celebrating, and we should still really celebrate a 22 and 10 game, especially with 5 rebounds. I mean, Mark finished second on the team in rebounds. So I mean, give him credit for that as well. And still only 3 turnovers over 33 minutes. It was actually a good game from Mark. It just wasn't a good shooting game from Mark. And I've said it time and time again. I'd prefer these performances from Mark than him shoot better and not distribute the ball. If Mark's gonna, do this and get 10 assists, they're gonna win. I'm a big believer. I know you say it's my stat, and it is. It's something I brought up, but they're 11-0 when he gets 7 or more assists, and
Yep.
It's a big deal. I joked with you mid-game, and it was around the time I think they were even losing at one point when he had more than 7 assists, and I said I trust the math. I mean, when Mark gets people into the game, they're going to win the game, and so I'm a big believer in that. Obviously, other teams make it harder for him to get those assists, but when he's distributing the ball like this, I think that Alabama's at their best.
Yeah, I agree. The other guy I'll lump in there too is Aiden Holloway. I saw him hesitate several times on threes. I thought he should have taken. Look at me, I sound like Nate Oates from covering him all this year, but I think him too. I think he needs to take more shot volume. He needs to remind people of the Aiden Holloway spark plug that I think he can be. I think that'll be big for Alabama. So yeah, the big thing for me is looking for the guards to step up. I do think the rebounding is going to come back to the mean a little bit. A couple names to know for St. Mary's. It's going to be a lot of guys you don't know how to, or that you might not know how to pronounce. Augustus Marshallonis is their best player, 14.3 points a game. It's about a 35% three-point shooter. He can hit it. They got Paulus, I think it's Mirauskis, 12.5 a game. And then their other double-digit scorer is Mitchell Saxon. He's the big. That will be a big assignment for Amore. He's averaging about 10 and 8. So that's kind of their big three. Luke Barrett's good. He can get rebounds. He's not far off of Saxon. About 6.5 rebounds a game, a little bit over. Their identity is very clear. They're slow. They try not to turn the ball over. They try and grind games out, and they play really good defense. It's going to have to be a disciplined one, in my opinion, for Alabama here on Sunday. At the time we're recording this, we don't know the time yet. All the games on Friday have to wrap up, so we will see when they play. But Tony, any lingering thoughts from Robert Morris? Any other takeaways? Survive and advance before we get into Sunday here. Obviously, good for Alabama to be playing another game. I think overall feeling, obviously, it's frustrating to only beat a 15 seed by 9, but I think still things you can be intrigued by. I mean, like you mentioned, they were down, they came back. Just your any additional thoughts you have as we turn the page towards St. Mary's here.
I think the thing that you take from this game, or this outcome of today, is that you survived. And also, I mean, look, St. Mary's didn't look great against Vanderbilt. So, I mean, you're not playing a team that's coming in red hot either. So I think, look, if St. Mary's played the way that they played today and Alabama played the way that Alabama played today, Alabama still wins. That's how I feel. And Alabama didn't play well. So, it's as lackluster as Alabama played today. It still proved that they can win games. They're a very talented team, and look, you can talk about like Alabama's going to have to do all this to beat St. Mary's. St. Mary's is going to have to play a great game to beat even a slumping Alabama. Like that's another thing. Like there's two sides to this. Yeah, yes, Alabama has to play well. Also, St. Mary's has to play well, and if they both play bad, Alabama will win. So, I think it's good to get one under your belt. I think, there's still some players on this team that don't have a lot of tournament experience. I think you look at like I said, like a LeBaron Philon. I'm sure he feels, I'm sure, it was an eye-opening moment to play. The spotlight's on and, you're in this do or die, mentality. I think I'm expecting a better game from him against St. Mary's. And yeah, like the guard play is going to have to be better. And the guard play wasn't good against Florida too. So, I mean, you can either look at it two ways. You can look at it as, is it a growing trend problem, or are they due? And I think when you look at the talent on this Alabama, backcourt, you kind of lean towards their due. Now, I mean, like, not going to ignore the problems. I mean, they still need to play better, but I have a hard time believing that they're going to continuously not shoot or underperform at the way that they are. I think you're going to see some big performances shooting, whether it's from Holloway or Sears or somebody's going to get hot. I think, you take the encouragement from the front court in this game. I think you also take the encouragement. We didn't really know how healthy Grant was. So while you didn't want to use him, he's obviously not that bad because he looked good. He looked like the Grant Nelson that you expect. Now, obviously, I don't know if he could do the same thing over 35 minutes or 32 minutes, but at least you've got some version of the Grant Nelson. He's not just like I guess you could always, in the tournament, sometimes when you make someone available, is he available just for show, or you really can't play? Obviously he could play. So the injury is not bad. You think maybe with a couple of days it'd be fine. And then also if they survive against St. Mary's, you would think that he's almost back to full strength by the time they play in the Sweet 16 if they make it that far. So I think there's some encouragement to take from this. It's not the best game, but at the very least, it's gonna wake them up for that round 2 matchup. They're not going to come in sleeping. So trying to be an eternal optimist here, but that is one way to look at it.
Grand Canyon wasn't the best game either. That was a scrappy 12 seed. I get it, but every team in the tournament's got talent and can hurt you. And Alabama learned from that. We'll see if they learn from this. Tony, I'll put you on the spot. One last thing. Quick X factor for this game. I will go Aiden Holloway.
For the coming game?
Yes, for St. Mary's.
I'm going to continuously go with Mo Diabate. I think with Grant Nelson being at all limited, regardless of how well he does, I think you're going to need someone to come in and get those boards. Yeah, sure, it would help if Holloway shot threes, but I think when you're going to go strength for strength, I think you're going to need somebody that's going to combat. Talk about O boards. I like, Diabate's ability to get O boards. I don't know if he actually did all that. I think all 10 of his were defensive boards today.
They were.
Yeah. So, but he is a guy that, historically gets O boards. I think that's going to be big against the St. Mary's team for sure.
I agree with you. I think they both will be big. I just think I need to see Holloway take more shots. I'm turning into Nate Oates. That's what I've accepted. All right. On Sunday, we'll get the time later this evening for the game, Alabama and St. Mary's. And yeah, we'll see how the Tide can respond, see if they can build on this performance and, use their lifeline and take that and try and advance to the second weekend. We'll have plenty of coverage of it. I'll be live on hand in Cleveland. Tony back at home base. He's got football stuff too down the pipeline, so plenty to tune in for. Enjoy the rest of the tournament. Been some great games elsewhere so far as well. So I love March Madness. Is my favorite time of the year. So we'll have all the coverage. Subscribe on Tide Illustrated. Subscribe here on the YouTube. Give us a follow if you're listening on Spotify. We will see you next time.